Welcome to another episode of the A-List Movie Club. I am your host, the game changer, Wes Truth. And with me, as always, are Dominic and John. How's it going tonight, guys?
Hey, it's going okay.
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. As always, every week, a different one of us picks a movie. Yeah, that was English. So, John, it was your turn this week to pick a movie, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you picked?
Do I have to?
You're the one that picked it.
I picked this movie just to be funny. Because, we picked like Die Hard, which is a classic, and Unforgiven, so I wanted to change it up a little bit. Just be funny. And it's a Marvel movie that no one talks about. You'll see why in a minute. I picked Howard the Duck.
Now, had you ever seen this movie before?
Yes, I saw it when it first came out. I was probably, 8 or 9. I was a kid.
Yeah, so did I. That's why I didn't watch it again.
Yeah.
Because that movie.
So this movie sees a duck named Howard the Duck, of course, be transported from his planet via a science experiment gone wrong to Earth, and funny enough, to Cleveland, Ohio, and he becomes friends with the lead singer of a punk band named Beverly. The band's name is Cherry Bomb, which makes me think of a much better band than the one that plays here. But basically, Howard the Duck wants to get back home, but the antics ensue, and he has to end up stopping an alien overlord, like most ducks do. But will he be able to stop the overlord in time? Dun, dun, dun!
All I can say is, who cares if he can or not in this movie?
I kind of wish the alien overlord would have taken over.
I'll tell you what, this movie came out in 1986, and it fucked up Marvel so bad they didn't come out with another movie for 12 years.
That's funny.
Yep.
Oh,
the first Marvel movie.
They're lucky.
Yeah. Exactly. So what'd you think of it, John?
Oh, I think it laid an egg. For some reason, I loved this movie when I was a kid. I don't know why, because I was like 8. When was it come out? 86. So I would have been 9. I loved this movie when I was a kid. I thought it was funny, this duck walking around talking and stuff. But now as an adult, and I've seen actual superhero movies, and I've seen better Marvel movies, this is a load of shit.
Oh,
it's fun. Just to go off of what you said, John, about liking different movies when you're a kid. I really loved Batman and Robin as a kid, and then I watched it back in like 2012 when I was doing all the Batman movies, and I was like, Jesus. Yeah. So it could definitely be like the same thing as that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't have an appreciation for movies like I do now.
Yeah.
It was funny to me. I didn't even think about any subtext or anything else. It was just, hey, look, there's a duck talking and walking around us. It didn't get any deeper than that for me.
Right. Well, when I saw it in 1986, I was 23 years old. And I absolutely hated that job of this movie then, and that's why I refused to watch it again, because it made an indelible impression in my mind, and I can still review it just from the time I saw it in 1986. This movie, I mean, how can I put this? if they showed this in prison, they'd be sued for cruel and unusual punishment. Because this movie is like this may very well be the worst movie I've ever seen. Of all the movies I've ever seen, this could be the worst.
Not me, but I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, I mean, as far as you've seen, maybe, yeah.
It's probably definitely the worst superhero movie I've ever seen. Not that he's much of a superhero, but yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely the worst comic book movie I've ever seen. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's not much else you could say about this movie. I mean, it's just a total turd.
I have a lot to say.
Of course you do.
So basically, imagine if E.T. sucked in every single way possible, and this is the movie you would get. It's full of lame lines that no one laughs at. I wrote down an example that no one laughs at a master of quack fu. Is that even a joke? All the jokes are awful. They fall flat on their face. There's so many visual duck puns, like taking out the dollar bill and George Washington has a beak on it. So many fake movie posters. There's like a Raiders of the Lost Ark fake movie poster in his bedroom. It reminded me of like Chuck E. Cheese because they had a lot of like fake stuff like that. The scenes of everyone screaming and laughing every time someone saw him got really old fast. Oh my God, it's a duck. I don't know who exactly this movie was made for. Because I thought it was kind of lame for adults, but at the same time, too much for kids. Because he drinks beer, smokes cigars, works at a whorehouse at one point. There's like a biker gang called Satan Sluts. And there's duck boobs in this movie, which is very interesting for PG. I thought all
Wesley rewound that 8 times.
I'm not that hard up.
That's a screensaver now.
Yeah. I thought all the action scenes were awful. The food fight at the diner, running from the cops, flying an airplane. It just all was bad. The villain being possessed by the alien life form. I thought it was a hideous villain. And an awful looking monster effects at the climax. The script was horrendous. Beverly lines I thought were especially bad. And it actually tries to be emotional, which is like, why? There's a number of fake out endings where it feels like the movie is going to end. Then it goes on for 35 more minutes. It just goes on way too long.
Kind of like your commentary.
I thought the songs sucked too. The songs that the band sings, just bad performances all around from Leah Thompson, Tim Robbins, Jeffrey Jones. And I thought the duck himself kind of sounded like Charlie Sheen, oddly enough, but like not funny. So that was pretty much what I took out of it there.
I thought the fake duck movie posters was like the best part.
Really?
Just because I was like, haha, that's clever, funny, but yeah.
I mean, it probably was. I just like had heard so many horror stories about it, and I'm like, well, maybe it won't be as bad as I think it was, but it was worse.
I didn't even get their whole relationship because.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
She took him home because she like felt sorry for him, and he helped her, and he falls asleep on her, and then they like have this big fight, and like all of a sudden she's like, "I miss you," and I where did that come from?
And let's not forget when they almost have sex. Talk about awkward.
Yeah. It's like their relationship sort of came from out of nowhere.
Yeah. It really didn't make much sense.
No.
Terrible.
No, I mean, you can have a movie that's like that and have it be a lot better. But yeah.
Yeah. And it jumped around. And I was watching. I'm like, do they not realize that there's a duck walking around? Like some people, like you said, scream. And some people
only when they show the shots of people screaming.
Otherwise, for the most part, people don't like that gang that was like beating him up. Do they not realize it's a duck? Like, I don't get it. Why does that not dawn on anybody that there's this duck walking around talking?
I know, yeah. It's so weird.
He's not even much of a superhero. He's scared the whole movie.
Yeah, and he doesn't have like any superpowers when he does beat up the people. He throws pies in people's faces.
Well, let me tell you about this. I actually owned 2 Howard the Duck comic books when I was younger. And the reason being is in these 2 issues, Kiss was in it. It was when Kiss was going to come out. It was when Kiss was going to come out with their own comic book, the first one that came out, and they teased it in the Howard the Duck because I think the comic book was failing and they wanted something that they only did it in this and teased it so people would buy those comics.
Were they any good?
No. It's Howard the Duck.
I don't know. Maybe the comic books are better than the movie. I don't know.
I think the comic books were. The comic books were much better. He was popular for a while, but it's true.
I have some trivia if anybody cares.
Sure.
Yeah, oh
About
yeah,
this shit show.
definitely.
So George Lucas had just built his $50 million Skywalker Ranch. And this was the first movie that came out, and he was hoping to get his money back that he spent from this movie. That didn't happen. This movie bombed so hard, he had to sell off his stuff. He sold Steve Jobs bought George Lucas's CGI division, which in turn became Pixar.
Oh. So without Howard the Duck, we may have never had Pixar.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Pretty wild.
Leah Thompson did all her own singing, whatever that is.
Oh God.
Uh-huh.
And how did she come off the Back to the Future with this?
I don't know. George Lucas spent $2 million on the duck suit alone. And 8 different actors played Howard the Duck.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. This was the guy who directed this. This was the last movie ever made. The movie before this was called Best Defense, and that flopped too. He never made another movie after Howard the Duck.
Yeah, I wrote something down about that. His name's William Hoyuk, and he wrote movies that with Lucas. Like he wrote Temple of Doom and stuff like that. He's one of the writers on that.
Yeah, him and his wife.
Yeah.
It was nominated for 7 Raspberry Awards. Worst Director, Worst Song, Worst Supporting Actor. It won 4 for Worst New Star, which was the 6 guys and gals in the duck suit. Worst Visual Effects, Worst Screenplay, and Worst Picture tied with Under the Cherry Moon, the Prince movie.
Oh my.
During a test screening, Universal executives Sid Sheinberg and Frank Price were allegedly arguing about who was to blame for greenlighting this film, which ended in a fist fight.
That's pretty funny.
All you need to know right there. George Lucas wanted John Landis to direct it, and he said no. Good move for him.
That would have been a very different movie, probably, though.
Tori Amos. We know who she is, the singer.
Hmm.
She
Yes.
auditioned for the part of Beverly. And John Cusack and Martin Short auditioned to be the voice of Howard.
Oh, wow.
I would have thought one of them would have been better than the Charlie Sheen ripoff.
Yeah.
All right. Let's rate this turd.
Now, are we going 1 to 10 or 0 to 10?
I know how the hell I'm going. 0 out of 10. If I have to give it a 1, I'll give it a 1. But if it's not, I'm giving it a 0.
I mean, we can give it 0.
Okay.
Oh, you guys going to 0?
I'm going 0.
Can we go negative?
I don't think we could do that.
And yes, it's a 0. Do not watch this movie.
And Wesley bought it. Wesley bought it to watch.
So did I. Bought it too.
Oh my!
But I got mine for $1.
Mine's on Blu-ray. But I'll trade it in. And yeah, I'm gonna round it out with another goose egg 0.
Wow.
So we went from straight 10s to straight 0s.
That's hysterical.
I would only watch this again if I was like with my friends and we were just going to Mystery Science Theater the whole time.
Even then, it's really hard.
I would only watch this again as if I was locked up in prison and they showed it.
Yeah, it's a really hard sit. Like if it had stopped at like an hour 30 when they were getting ready to put him back on the rocket, it might have been like, well, this sucked, but at least it was short. But it just keeps going. It's just like, oh God, no. Then it almost made it like unwatchable.
It's sort of, the tone is all over the place. Like, is it a comedy? Is it a sci-fi? Is it supposed to be action? Is it supposed to be a superhero movie? Like, what is this thing?
And it fails at all of it.
Special effects, even for 1986, are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That villain guy with his eyes turn green, he shoots lasers. Oh, come on. That's horrible.
Yeah. And yeah, just think of the other Lucas stuff, like Star Wars. The effects were a lot better in Star Wars than Duck.
Yeah. Terrible.
But yeah, so we all recommend that you don't watch Howard the Duck. Even like for like, oh, this is one of the worst movies ever. I should watch it. No.
No, you shouldn't.
Just take our word for it.
You can see why Marvel doesn't like include it in their MCU or acknowledge its existence.
I was gonna
Well,
say, I think all around we can pretty much say the best thing about Howard the Duck is just that little cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy at the very end.
I'm sure 90% of the audience didn't even know who that was.
Yeah. And even that got a groan. Because I remember when we were like, oh God, what's it going to be? What is it going to be? And then we're like, oh God, Howard the Duck. Even the people who knew who it was, they're like, oh Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. But at least, like you said, it was brief. It wasn't a whole movie built around him. A little funny cameo is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, we have our first 0 out of 30. Average score of 0.
We went from Die Hard to this, so we went from one extreme to the other.
All right. Well, all right. That brings us to my pick for next week. And we're going to continue on with the superhero movies. But this one's a lot better. At least in my opinion, it is.
They have to be better.
We're going to jump from Marvel to DC because next week a movie is coming out in theaters that I was really looking forward to seeing, and also HBO Max. But we're going to go back and watch the original, and that is Wonder Woman! Wonder Woman! Because
Bobby, did you see
Dominic
his
hasn't
best movie?
seen this,
Oh.
but it's
Nope,
one of
I
my
haven't.
all-time favorite superhero movies. So I'm excited to watch it again.
I have it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the better DC ones.
Easily.
That and Aquaman, and then that's it.
See, we don't even like
Oh
we didn't even like
my
Aquaman.
Aquaman, horrible.
No, the rest are so shitty that Aquaman is one of the better ones.
All right, yeah. So we'll be back next week with the review of Wonder Woman. But until then, John, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your podcast? I like how we laugh
Okay.
about it every time.
I don't know. Called We Like Wrestling Podcast. It's 4 guys sitting around talking about wrestling. All the organizations, past, present. We just did a all girls tournament last week. It's pretty interesting. I'm not sure what we're doing this week. Oh, we're discussing favorite toys.
I saw that on Instagram. Yeah.
That's
Well,
pretty
that
cool.
should be- Yeah. You can find us on Instagram or on Facebook or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. We Like Wrestling Podcast.
Awesome.
All right. And of course, for me, you know the links, youtube.com/Westside of 515. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/WestTruePaylist. And of course, you can follow me on the Twitter and the Instagram @WestAlist. Until next time, Troop out.